Have you ever lived next to someone who genuinely believes the entire universe orbits around them? Picture it like this. Every morning, without exception, I'd step out my front door, keys already clutched, all set to commute to work. And every time, there it sat, that flashy, outrageously expensive Porsche claiming my reserved parking space as if it had legal title to the asphalt. It wasn't a one-off or even a couple of times, it happened daily. The real twist. The car belonged to the pampered adult son of our HOA president, the neighborhood's legendary Karen. Until then, I'd endured more than my share of her nonsense. She was the classic busybody who would whip out a tape measure to check your grass height, grumble about children pedaling their bikes too quickly, and blast passive-aggressive group emails because someone's trash bin sat 1 inch too far from the curb. But this incident crossed a line. It hit me where it hurt. Parking was already a nightmare in our development, and I'd shelled out serious cash for my assigned spot. Still, her smug, spoiled 20-something son who barely spent any real time living there had decided my space was simply more convenient for his lifestyle. At the start, I kept things civil. I walked over, knocked on their door, calmly explained that the spot was mine by rule and payment, and politely asked him to move the vehicle. He flashed a cocky half smile, tossed out a vague comment about tons of other parking around, and promptly shut the door in my face. I thought that would settle it. Wrong. The very next morning, the Porsche was right back in my spot, practically taunting me. So I escalated to the source, Karen herself. Surely the HOA president, the self-declared enforcer of every tiny regulation, would take a clear violation like this seriously. Instead, she hit me with that superior, tight-lipped smile, the one that screams, "You're beneath my notice," and answered, "My son's only staying here temporarily. I'm positive you can park somewhere else for a little while. Honestly, it's not worth making a fuss over." Not worth a fuss? This was the same woman who'd slapped a $50 fine on another neighbor because their recycling bin lid wasn't latched perfectly. Yet rules apparently evaporated when the offender was her precious boy. That was the exact second it sank in. This wasn't simple entitlement. This was rank hypocrisy. From then on, I turned into a meticulous record keeper. Time-stamped photos of the Porsche squatting in my space. Detailed logs tracking every occurrence. I even record a video of him chuckling with his buddies about how he'd taken the old dude spot. To him, it was hilarious. He figured I was helpless. They had no clue. I was quietly building a strategy, and when it finished, that Porsche wouldn't just be illegally parked. It would be totaled beyond recognition. The following week, the situation snowballed. Morning after morning, the car sat there like a gleaming monument to their arrogance, reflecting sunlight straight into my eyes like a personal insult. I tried every reasonable avenue first. Polite notes on the windshield ignored. A formal complaint to the HOA board brushed aside. I even requested a tow, only for Karen to intervene personally and declare her son a visiting guest who was somehow immune to enforcement. Immune. The word lodged in my brain, like dry tinder waiting for a match. Neighbors began murmuring. A handful offered quiet sympathy, shaking their heads over the blatant favoritism. Most just avoided eye contact, too scared of landing on Karen's enemies list. She ruled the community like a petty monarch, and her son strutted through it like a crown prince, blasting the Porsche's engine at midnight just to flex. One morning stands out vividly. I ended up late for work after hunting for parking 3 blocks away. When I finally got home that evening, there he was lounging against his car still in my spot, casually sipping an energy drink and cracking up with his crew. "Yo," he yelled with that signature smirk. "Appreciate you lending me the spot again, man." His friends exploded into laughter like they'd heard the joke of the century. My anger surged so fiercely, I'd feel my knuckles turning white. That night, staring at the ceiling in the dark, it all crystallized. Karen and her son weren't after mere convenience. They wanted dominance. Taking my parking space had zero to do with need. It was about power, about drilling home that, no matter what I tried, I ranked beneath them. And in that moment, I knew I was finished tolerating it. The revenge took shape methodically, one careful element at a time. I refused to do anything rash that might backfire legally. It had to be calculated, undetectable, and profoundly satisfying. I studied that Porsche obsessively, exactly how he angled it each time, the pattern of his arrivals, even which way the front tires pointed when he parked. I knew the car better than he did. Then I quietly assembled what I needed: heavy-duty tire puncturing strips, several jugs of a strong acid-based compound I ordered online while labeling it industrial cleaner, and, most critically, discrete dash camera position to capture every second. If I were going to settle the score, I wanted crystal clear evidence. No denials possible. For 7 straight nights, I practiced every detail in my head, timing each step, mapping out exact positions, planning multiple escape paths. I had memorized the precise moments when that Porsche sat vulnerable, when his mother was away, when the street fell silent. This wasn't merely payback anymore. It was a restoration of fairness. And on the night everything aligned, I was fully prepared to reduce that entitled kid's most prized possession to worthless twisted metal. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening. The whole neighborhood seemed hushed. A gentle rain drizzled down, just heavy enough to swallow the soft sounds of my movements. There the Porsche rested under the streetlight in my reserve space, shining like a coiled threat waiting to strike. Tonight, though, the roles were reversed. It was the one in danger. I dropped low, pulse hammering, and carefully placed the first element of my setup beneath the front tires. Razor-sharp, heavy-duty tire spikes designed to slice through rubber like paper. I angled them just right, concealed perfectly by darkness and the curb's curve. The instant he fired up the engine the next morning and tried to drive off, those tires would disintegrate before he cleared the block. But I layered the punishment. Moving to the rear, I poured a precise, narrow trail of the powerful corrosive liquid along the muffler and exhaust system. Nothing dramatic enough to ignite, just enough to slowly dissolve the metal, eating away like acid through flesh. The longer it idled, the more structural damage it would cause. I wanted that car to endure the same prolonged misery. I'd faced every single sunrise. For the finishing flourish, I carefully removed the standard valve caps from all 4 tires and swapped them with slow leak pressure relief valves I'd bought online. Even if he miraculously avoided the spikes, he'd wake up to 4 gradually deflating tires, stepping back into the rain, clothes drenched, hands trembling with adrenaline. I experienced something absent for weeks: power. For the first time, I wasn't the helpless target of Karen's double standards or her son's smug entitlement. I held the reins, and to ensure every piece mattered, my hidden dash cam recorded the entire operation from inside my vehicle, documenting each careful action without missing a beat. Sleep barely came that night. I lay awake, staring upward, energy surging through me. By first light, I was positioned at my window, slats barely parted, watching like a predator awaiting its quarry. Right at 8 o'clock on the dot, the kid shuffled out of Karen's house, sunglasses perched, phone glued to his hand, not sparing the Porsche a single glance. He slid inside, cranked the engine with that signature cocky rev, and dropped it into drive. What came next was symphony-level satisfaction. Simultaneous explosions of rubber bang, screech, pop. As the tires shredded instantly, the Porsche jerked forward unevenly, throwing sparks from the rims, grinding pavement. His expression flipped from arrogance to sheer terror in an instant, and I drank in every second of it. But the real devastation was only beginning. The noise ripped across the street like a botched fireworks display. He leapt out, cursing loudly, staring in disbelief at the mangled tires, as though the world had personally wronged him. His friends, who'd arrived to ride along, stood frozen, chuckling awkwardly and avoiding his gaze. The spectacle continued. Within moments, the acid began its silent assault. Faint wisps of smoke curled from underneath, the exhaust pipe starting to blister and peel. Panic set in. He fumbled for his phone, probably dialing his mother. I could practically hear her piercing tone from my vantage point, screeching to know what he'd done to ruin her beloved car. Karen burst outside moments later, still in her bathrobe, hair in rollers, looking far more like a frantic harpy than the neighborhood's iron-fisted ruler. The sight of the Porsche tires in tatters, exhaust corroding, frame already warped from the strain drained the color from her face before it flushed furious red. "What did you do?" she shrieked at her son, as if he'd somehow wrecked it himself. He stammered denials, gesturing wildly at the ground, the tires, the smoke. She wasn't hearing any of it. Her carefully constructed image was collapsing faster than the car's undercarriage. By then, neighbors had started drifting over. Phones came out, quietly filming the meltdown, murmurs carrying just far enough for Karen to catch. Isn't that her son's car? Yeah. Didn't she lecture everyone about parking rules? Guess the HOA president can't even manage her own kid. Each comment landed like another wound to her ego. Me. I kept it perfectly casual. I stepped outside, holding my coffee mug, feigning mild surprise. Oh man, I said casually, as though I'd only just noticed. That's brutal. Really shows why those parking rules exist, right? You just never know what might happen when people ignore them. I let the words linger, a perfect mirror of every sanctimonious lecture she'd ever delivered to the rest of us. The Porsche was beyond salvage. Tires destroyed, exhaust system dissolving, chassis twisted from half driving on spikes. Eventually, a tow truck arrived, dragging the once immaculate machine away like a fallen warrior. Karen tried clawing back authority, demanding the HOA board launch an investigation. But my dash cam footage told its own story. It captured her son openly mocking me, bragging about claiming my spot, and her brushing off my complaints entirely. I submitted it anonymously to the board. Within weeks, the pressure became unbearable. Karen was ousted as HOA president. Her son never dared park in my space again, mainly because his Porsche was declared a total loss, insurance denying coverage for what they labeled preventable negligence. Justice wasn't just mine. It belongs to every neighbor who'd endured her tyrannical hypocrisy in the sweetest detail. They never once suspected who had orchestrated their downfall. That's exactly how it unfolded. If you love this wild HOA Karen tale and crave more outrageous neighborhood drama, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in my position? Share your ideas in the comments below. Your support keeps these stories alive and coming. Thank you.